Hey guys, this is PyromaniacMo coming at you with a Week 7 practice reports. I can't believe we're at Week 7 already, but let's just jump right into it. Once again, we're trying to get as much information as we can. One of the best things you can do, though, is stay active Sunday morning. If you're a Pyro Pro, we're going to bring you the news feeds, so you'll be able to see all the latest up-to-date information brought to you right from the news feeds. Plus, we give you our fantasy goo. That is our take on the stats and the actives, the inactives, all the stuff we're hearing. Plus, you also get the benefit of being able to load up to 100 players for Pyro Pros, being able to load up to 100 players in your dashboard. And then on each player dashboard, you get to look at the Twitter feeds. So anytime a Twitter mention happens with one of your players on your player page, you're going to be able to scroll through all of that. So you don't have to go hunt and peck and chase all around for everybody. You just got to enter the player once on Pyro Pro, and we do all the charting for you, and it's brought right to you on the dashboard. It is a beautiful thing. But of course, as you know, with fantasy players being what they are, we're always trying to get a leg up. So I'm bringing you the practice reports. So just a reminder, we got Carolina and Dallas on bye. Of course, we already had the Chicago-Green Bay game. So let us kick it off with the Arizona game. Arizona, not what they have been as of late, and they are home to Seattle. And that is indeed Sunday night. Vegas has this one kind of low scoring, 43.5 over-under as of right now. And with Arizona, we've got on the practice reports, well, we got Jaron Brown listed as questionable. He was did not practice Thursday and was limited on Friday. Old John Brown, Old Smoke, is doubtful. He did not practice either Thursday or Friday. So, it could be a bit of a question mark there. I certainly am thinking Jaron Brown might be able to go since he got in a limited practice, but that's not what you want to see. I want to see the guy that gets in a full practice. So it could be a bigger slice of the pie, maybe one last shot there for Mr. Michael Floyd. We've got Carson. He's questionable with a hamstring. He was limited both Thursday and Friday. Other of note players from around the league. Let's turn it over to Atlanta. Now, Atlanta has a total of 6 players, either out or on IR. They're facing San Diego. And man, is this game juicy. The game opened at 50.5. It's risen since then to 54. Atlanta's favored by 6.5 when it opened, and that's what I like to look at. So I think it's going to be a shootout. Good stuff for both folks on both sides. To jump ahead, if I don't forget about it, San Diego, they've got Flowers, Verrett, and Jaleel Adai all out. These are all starting secondary guys, so it could be a very nice day for Matt Ryan. But getting back to Atlanta, as I said, the Atlanta practice reports, we got 6 guys that are either listed as out or on IR. And let's follow up on some other ones. Guys of note that you are worried about or thinking about. As I said, their secondary, their defense is depleted as it is. Nobody really of note. Mohamed Sanu, he was limited on Thursday. He got in a full practice on Friday. As I said, lots of secondary guys there for Atlanta. So Phillip Rivers, a guy I'm liking in DFS, is going to look to capitalize on that. Baltimore, Kamar Aiken questionable with a thigh, although he got in a full practice Friday. I'm not too concerned there. Flacco, he's been in the news a bit. He did not practice Wednesday, Thursday. There was a lot of talk about him, but because he got in a full practice on Friday, I think he's going to go no problem. So he could be a nice streamer depending on who you've got on your waiver wire. I certainly like other streaming candidates this week ahead of Flacco, but Flacco's a good one. I just did a Pyro Light podcast with John Tuvey, and if you can't score Cousins, because Cousins isn't as available, I do like a Flacco. I still want Cousins more. And, I could be talked into Alex Smith, but he didn't do it last week. But Flacco, he could be a good one, and I love that he got in a full practice on Friday. Devin Hester, he's questionable. You're not really playing him unless you are in the deepest of 20-man leagues or something. Some other guys there. as I read through the reports, boy, excuse me, they've got a couple cornerbacks, Baltimore does, listed with a concussion, questionable. Jimmy Smith, Gerard Powers listed as questionable with a groin. Steve Smith, he did not practice all week. That makes Aiken a bit more appealing, certainly. But like I said, Aiken himself is questionable because he went to full practice. Friday, I think he's going to go. Terrell Suggs is doubtful. They got Wright doubtful on the defense. So lots of defensive guys not looking good for Baltimore, which looks good if you're on the other side of the ball. Let's move over to Buffalo. Charles Clay, questionable with an ankle. Didn't practice earlier in the week, but he was indeed limited Thursday, Friday. Again, I really want to see a full practice on Friday. Charles Clay, streaming option often this year, but he's going to be questionable. Keep an eye on that one. Boy, their offensive line, they've got all kinds of offensive tackles listed. One questionable, one out, and one got in limited practice earlier this week. So could be rough there. And speaking of the running game, we've got McCoy listed as questionable. He was limited Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. All right, Gillislee, limited Friday. So it's a tough one. I believe it was a Josina Anderson report said that he's out. Could be for a couple of weeks. I saw a very contradictory report saying he's going to play. If he goes, it's going to be limited for sure. I still like Gillislee. Gillislee is rock bottom price on DraftKings. I scooped him up in my league of note. I don't care. Even if my man McCoy goes, I'm still rolling with Gillislee there. Who else they got? A couple defensive tackles, but besides that, Robert Woods offensively, he is doubtful. He has not been able to practice all week. Again, you just got to love Gillislee. 14 games played, 11 touchdowns. He's got roughly a 5.6 yearly career yards per carry. I talked him up on the Pyro Light with John Tuvey recently. I love me some Gillislee. Chicago, of course, they recently played, so let's spin down to Cincy. I think Cincy could have a super hot game. I think it's going to be an A.J. Green game, a Dalton game. I'm even calling Jeremy Hill. They are home to Cleveland, the Battle of Ohio. They opened, the Bengals did, at 10-point favorites. So talk about a Hill game going up against Cleveland, who gives it up to opposing running backs. They're home. I'm going to check that box. I'm going to check the box because the game script is so high, meaning that they're going to expect it to beat them by 10 points. So says Vegas. That should mean they're going to run the ball a lot. So I think this could be a Hill game, and I love a Dalton A.J. Green stack. But let's look at the practice report for Cincy. Perfect. He got into full practice Thursday, Friday. He was limited earlier in the week, but did indeed get into full practice. My man Eifert, baby. I picked him up. He is limited on Thursday, but he got into full practice Friday, so that is good to go. He's still officially questionable with the back injury, but I might just have to roll with him. They've really been needing to get some red zone help, and he could offer that. Elsewhere, James Wright, but he got into full practice. I know they were talking about him again. Again, deepest of leagues, you're worried about him. On the other side of the ball in this very game, we've got Cleveland. Got Corey Coleman. Now, he's out, but I'm hearing talk could be coming back. He's out with a hand injury, of course. They got a cornerback, Marcus Burley. He's out with a hamstring. Good for Cincinnati. Elsewhere, boy, they've got Joe the Iron Hayden listed as doubtful. He's not been able to practice again. Another checkbox for A.J. Green and the Red Rifle. Anybody else I'm concerned with here for Cleveland? Of course, McCown, collarbone out. He was limited in practice, though, so maybe things turning around a bit for him. Terrell Pryor popped up on the list as questionable. He did not practice Wednesday nor Thursday, but he got in limited practice on Friday. That's bodes well. I would rather see a full practice from him, but you're going to have to pay attention to the reports or Pyro Pro. We got your back. I'll be doing the news feeds probably tonight and a bit tomorrow to make sure we are taking care of everything in the all-important Week 7. But you want to watch out for Terrell Pryor. Just double-check it before game time clicks. Elsewhere, Denver. I got to tell you, before we start with the Denver one here, I said to fade in DFS leagues. I said to fade Demaryius Thomas. He's going up against AJ Bowie on the other side of the ball there. According to Pro Football Focus, AJ Bowie ranks number 1, not only in coverage for cornerback, but also in overall cornerback ranking. They rate 115. Bowie is number 1, and he's going up against, so says Pro Football Focus, the majority of the time, Mr. Demaryius Thomas. So he was my fade. Elsewhere on Denver, Cody Latimer, concussion, questionable. Didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Wednesday. Got it limited on Friday, but he's never really materialized. Russell Okung, man, you want to see him get back on that line there. He did not practice Thursday. He got in a limited practice Friday. And Okung got a limited practice in on Saturday. Thank you, Denver, for getting out some Saturday reports. Sanders was able to practice full all week. Simeon able to practice full all week. And DeMarcus Ware, he, of course, is out. Other guys of note, that's it for Denver. Moving over to Detroit, as it were, in French. I don't know if that's right. Maybe it's Indian. I don't know. Anyway, Ezekiel Ansah, man, we've been missing him. Questionable, that defensive end there. He's been limited all week. As is DeAndre Levy is out. Gosh, I wish we had him. He hasn't practiced yet, and they've really been missing the combo of Ansah, Levy, and Nada. Nada is out as well, and it's not looking good for Ansah. So 3 core defensive men they're going to be missing there in Detroit. Eric Ebron, he is indeed out with his knee injury that he's been struggling with. Theo Riddick is indeed out with his ankle. Larry Warford, he's a guard that's been there far too long. Growing, he's limited. So the ground game, big question mark on Mr. Washington, because they are playing Washington, but big question mark there. Got that ankle. He was limited Thursday and Friday. Be nice if he could go. Zach Zenner filling in admirably. I really thought Zach Zenner would be able to do more. Haven't seen it yet. And, of course, people picked up my man there from a few years ago. Of course, his name is eluding me now, wouldn't you know it? But Justin Forsett, I used to say I heart Justin Forsett underwear. Might be a game for him, although I wish the line was in better shape. But considering Washington is still questionable and without Riddick, he could get some action there. Green Bay, as we said, already played this week, so we're turning over to Houston. Full practice. Most guys here doing pretty well. Jadeveon Clowney, questionable. He was limited. Even on Saturday, he was limited. Quentin Demps, their safety, he is already out. Will Fuller, he was limited in practice, and I saw reports about him. He did get in a full practice on Saturday, so that bodes well. Ryan Griffin, he got in a full practice. And besides that, Jonathan Grimes, he's out, as many of you know. DeAndre Hopkins, he was limited on Thursday. He got into full practice Friday, so that is certainly reassuring, to say the least. And other than that, Braxton Miller, he was able to practice in full, and Brock Osweiler as well. Again, reassuring for you Houston fans and fantasy players alike. In Indy's banged up. The main one here is Dwayne Allen. He is out because he is out. I think Jack Doyle is a great streamer in defensive play. Also, Philip Dorsett, he is out. Now, with that being said, there's an interesting pickup you could grab. He's 3,000 in DraftKings, and that is Chester Rogers, because Hilton is questionable. We know Moncrief and Dorsett are both out, as is Dwayne Allen. So Chester Rogers, $3,000 league minimum on DraftKings, and he is listed officially as the team's number 2. Chester Rogers, Indiana's number 2. Yeah, you can pick him up on the cheap. I would be almost willing to bet if you're in a pinch, you could grab him. This game, they are at Tennessee. Tennessee is actually home favorites, so luck could be looking to pass. And the game opened with 48.5 over-under. That's rather low scoring, roughly, doing math in my head, roughly about 21 implied total there for Indy. But it could be a sneaky pick there for old Chester. Could be a sneaky pick. I'm going to throw him in a couple of DFS lineups. Prince Amukamara, Jacksonville, he returned full practice. That's good for Jacksonville defense. They've been needing that. Aside from Prince Amukamara, Jacksonville, they're looking fairly healthy. Alan Hearns went from limited on Wednesday to did not practice on Thursday. And Alan Hearns, I know folks have been a bit disappointed, I think primarily with Bortles, but Alan Hearns did get into full practice on Friday. Elsewhere there, we've got Julius Thomas listed as questionable. He was limited both Thursday and Friday, so you're going to want to watch that if you are having to start him. I might just stream if that were the case for me. Looking over at Kansas City. We've got Jamal Charles listed as questionable. He got into limited practice Friday, but I believe it was Friday after he got into limited practice. We all heard earlier in the week that Andy Reid said, as we could see, Jamal Charles was not ready. I went with Ware last week just because Ware has done too much, and Jamal Charles' first game back felt more like a decoy game. If he goes, I think you're going to see the same thing. I love this game for an under. They think it's going to score roughly 48 points, but I just don't see it happening. I see Andy Reid running the ball on the ground with Mr. Ware and playing defense. So I still like a Ware. They came out on Friday with Jamal Charles after he tried to go and practice and apparently had some major swelling in his leg. So I'd be willing to bet Jamal Charles does not go. Even if he does, I have no confidence in him. And Ware is just playing too well, and they're relying too heavily on him for me to go with Charles at this point. Other than that, cornerback Philip Gaines, he was limited Thursday, Friday after not practicing on Wednesday. He is indeed questionable. And turning to L.A., if we must, I suppose we will, but turning to L.A., a couple of defensive tackles there. You've got a defensive tackle, defensive end. Michael Brockers, he is listed as out, and William Hayes, questionable. But he got into full practice Thursday and Friday. Trumaine Johnson, their cornerback, he is out. And that's about all that I would really report. They got another defensive end. So LA, that vaunted defense, could be suffering a bit. They got 2 linemen that are out, defensive tackle, defensive end. They got another one that is questionable. That could hurt him a little bit. Turning over to Miami, poor Jordan Cameron, still suffering from concussions, did not practice all week. Besides that, Arian Foster, still struggling with that hamstring. His official listed as questionable, but he got into full practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But of course, with some surprises in the running game there, I'm not sure if you want to trust Mr. Foster. Beyond that, anybody of note here? You've got Rashard Jones. He is on IR. He's their safety. You've got 2 cornerbacks. One, Howard, is listed. He's out already, and Tony Lippert is questionable, but he did get in a full practice on Friday. Could open things up for the passing game in that one. And Deion Sims is out. He, too, with the concussion. So both main Miami tight ends out with concussion symptoms. Minnesota's playing Philly. Just real quick on the other side of the ball, Minnesota's defense is just going to be historically fantastic. But Jordan Matthews, he's going up against Captain Munnerlyn. He is the Vikings slot corner. I'm going off the top of my head here, but I know on average, Munnerlyn has per game on a per game basis, allowed less than 35 yards and has not given up a touchdown yet. So Jordan Matthews has a big task in front of him, as does the entire Philly offense. Minnesota could be a bit of a revenge game there for Bradford. You can read that one both ways, I guess. You could say they know Bradford, or Bradford knows them. I do kind of believe, I like the idea of the revenge game, and Bradford's been looking good. Last time we saw him on the field, they had the bye last week. He was 12th, I believe. He was a top 12 quarterback. I think it could be interesting for Bradford. Elsewhere on that Minnesota team, let me see. Nope. Wide receiver, here's a big one though. Stefan Diggs, limited, got in a full practice Friday. Now I really like Thielen. I picked him up last time we saw him when Diggs was out. He had over 100 yards. I still like him, even if Stefan Diggs goes. I think they both have a nice matchup. I talked about this matchup on the light, that they should see a couple corners there for Philly who have been got as of late. So I think regardless of who you're looking at there, I think they could maybe open something up. Philly in that cornerback spot, they've got Ladonis McKelvin is questionable, and Ron Brooks is questionable, and Ron Brooks has been able to have been taken advantage of. And I think Diggs, should he go, he's going to see a fair share of him, and I think it could be a nice day for him. But I like both backs there, particularly if Diggs is going to fall ill to that groin injury. If that's going to linger, Thielen's a nice pickup. Elsewhere there, McCole Pruitt, he is out, the tight end, of course, just means better things ahead for my Notre Dame tight end there. We all have grown to love in Kyle Rudolph. Notre Dame's produced some pretty good tight ends, you got to admit. Moving on from Minnesota. Oh, I guess I can bring up two wide receivers. They don't get much look. Jarius Wright, doubtful. He was limited all week, as was Laquan Treadwell. What happened to him? Maybe just hasn't gotten it put together yet, but he was limited all week as well. Turning over to New England, Martellus Bennett, he popped up. He was limited in practice all week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. He's officially listed as questionable with an ankle. Brandon Bolden, questionable with a knee. Here's one that concerns me. Not that you're playing Brandon Bolden, but I do think it could be a really nice blunt game. I talked about this on the Pyro Light. It checks a couple of boxes. But Brandon Bolden, he was limited Wednesday, Thursday, unable to go on Friday. That's what scares the pants off me. And a good thing I'm only panning from my shirt up, because literally my pants are scared. Okay, moving on. We've got other Patriots. Julian Edelman, listed as questionable. He was limited all week with the foot. And no one else really of note to mention. Surprisingly, I do not see Gronk on here. I've just come to sort of expect that, but don't see him as of right now, which is quite something. New Orleans, they're always got guys on there. Delvin Breaux, he is out there, cornerback. That lower leg, he hasn't been able to practice. They've got two linebackers, Stephen Anthony and Donnell Ellerby. Both of them are out. Gosh, they've got some defensive woes. Sterling Moore, cornerback, out. So they are really hurting on the defensive side of the ball, as is New Orleans. That could be a heck of a game there as well, but you never like Breeze away from the Dome. However, that game is slated for something of a shootout. We've got them visiting Kansas City. Opened, it was one of the two games. It was the second highest over under the week. It opened at 50 points. It's since risen to 51. I don't think it's going to necessarily reach that, but you could see some scoring. Again, my favorite guy in this one is going to be Spencer Ware. I could see them running the ball, playing defense. Elsewhere, the Giants. We've got Eli Apple. He was limited all week. Odell Beckham, if you saw this, he did not practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday or Friday. He's not listed, but was limited in practice, so it's something to keep in mind, but I don't think you're going to have any concern with him going forward. Rashad Jennings, full practice both Thursday and Friday. We got a safety, Darian Thompson. He is out for the Giants. Moving over to the other side of the big city there, the Jets. We have Matt Forte. He was limited earlier in the week, if you saw on Wednesday, but full practice both Thursday and Friday. His usage has been receding as Bilal Powell's has been waxing, I should say, I guess. But still, starting with Geno, sick. I looked this up, by the way. I talked about this on the light. They're benching Fitztragic. On average, Fitz throws an interception. I believe it was 1 out of every 29 passes. Geno Smith, whom they're replacing him with, throws an interception 1 out of every 24. Of course, the Jets lead the league in interceptions, playing a team that I do like defensively, certainly, Baltimore, who are top 3, I believe, in interceptions, or they're very high in interceptions, playing a team that gives up a lot of interceptions. Elsewhere, let's look at Oakland real quick. Nothing huge in Oakland. I guess we can talk about the running backs. Tywan Jones, questionable with a knee, limited all week, as was Latavius Murray with the toe. It's just kind of a train wreck. I like Carr better. I also like Carr because it's a bit of a revenge game. Carr is going up against, or Oakland, I should say, is going up against Jacksonville. They took Bortles over him. So that's the kind of stuff that a young gunslinger might stick up on his locker and look at every day, keeping in mind there was those handful of teams that took a quarterback and that quarterback's name was not yours. That's the situation with Carr. And because they've got, last week they only had 14 attempts between the two running backs, they're going to look to pass. And surprisingly, or maybe not if you've been following Pyro, they're not using who you would think when they get in close. Oakland, they've got certainly Amari Cooper, who's amazing, Crabtree, but Seth Roberts actually leads the team in red zone targets. This was the same deal for Cooper last year, so it's hard to say who's going to go off, but I'd like to pick Cooper in that situation. I like to pick the quarterback in that situation, so I like Carr. Quite a bit of a revenge game for him. They're tossing the ball around once they get into the red zone just for lack of running game. Elsewhere, we've got Philly. I talked about them a little bit already in the tough matchup that Jordan Matthews has and the whole team has against Minnesota. But just looking at them, I know Jordan Matthews was limited in practice on Wednesday. He's not on the injury list. He did get into full practice both Thursday and Friday. We've got Pittsburgh. Got a couple guys listed there for Pitt. Certainly Roethlisberger. You know that he's out. Shazier, their excellent linebacker who's always injured, he got in full practice both Thursday, Friday. He is looking to play. Marcus Wheaton, of course, you know that he is out with a shoulder. D'Angelo Williams is out with a knee. Neither were able to practice at all this week. Moving over to San Diego, already talked about them in their woes. Flowers, Verrett, and Adai all out. That is their 3 of their 4 starting cornerbacks. So once again, this game, I love Rivers just because he's down. I think it's 6.5, I believe, is the spread there. And it's favored for Atlanta. Highest over-under. It opened at 50.5. And there's nobody. As San Diego has 3 of 4 starters that are out. Plus Atlanta, I believe I mentioned this, 6 defensive players that are either out or listed on IR. Regardless, they're out. So lots of banged up guys, lots of points expected. Get your players in. I think this could be a sneaky stack. Actually, my partner who came up with this on the light, he talked about stacking both Atlanta running backs, which I thought would be unique and million maker. You're looking to differentiate your lineup, that could certainly be a way to do it. But San Diego, other guys, Travis Benjamin, he's questionable. Did not practice on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and then there's no info for him on Friday. So he's one you're going to want to keep an eye on. Dexter McCluster, he got in full practice all week. He was on the reports earlier. Moving over to Seattle. Jimmy Graham, full practice, did not practice, full practice Friday. So always one to keep an eye on Jimmy Graham, but he did get in a full most recently on Friday. CJ Procise, looking good, full practice all week this week. Thomas Rawls, of course, out, did not practice at all this week. So the road to recovery is take the road less traveled by. Two roads diverged in the yellow wood, and CJ just hasn't finished his journey yet. But I'm hoping for my Notre Dame boy to come through unscathed eventually. Russell Wilson, he got into full practice all week as well. San Francisco, the poor 49ers. Guys of note here, nobody really listed. Dorsey listed as questionable, their defensive end. He was full practice Wednesday and then limited Thursday, Friday, so chances are, I would say 50-50 coin flip, but perhaps more that he doesn't play. I don't like it when a guy gets into full practice and then does not practice or is limited. Blaine Gabbert was able to get into full practice both Thursday, Friday. Of course, you know they're going with Kaepernick, though. Kaepernick had 66 yards, I believe, last week on the ground alone. So, in a pinch for streaming, I think he could be an all-right guy, although we talked about several before we got to Kaepernick in the most recent light, as I said, Cousins, Flacco, guys that I do indeed like. Elsewhere for San Francisco, Torrey Smith is listed as questionable, but he was able to get limited Thursday, Friday. We saw the long bomb. Kaepernick throws a better long ball than Gabbert did, and he indeed connected with Torrey Smith. I plugged him in one of my DFS lineups, just thinking that might happen, and indeed it did. So, looks like Torrey Smith should be able to go. And 3 more. Tampa Bay. We've still got Doug Martin officially listed as out. Boy, you saw Jacquizz Rodgers with 35 looks last week. The sheer, I'm not talking talent, but sheer volume of opportunity alone, you gotta love Jacquizz Rodgers. And like I said, Doug Martin is out for sure. Tampa's got some other guys. They've got a cornerback listed as questionable, Ajel Barama. They also have a defensive end that is out. They have 2 D tackles, one of which is out and one of which is questionable. So they got some guys that are kind of banged up. Cecil Shorts, he's questionable. Now they're talking about him over Humphreys, getting more of the looks since Vincent Jackson. I talked about maybe plugging in Humphreys. Since then, I've seen a report that it's going to be Cecil, not Humphreys, that gets the boost because Vincent Jackson is gone. I love a lot of the Bucs this week. I like Brait. I love the Evans connection. And heck, my stack of the week on the daily do's and don'ts, my stack was a wide receiver, running back stack, and that was Evans and Jacquizz. So, and then, of course, the quarterback there with Jamias. Moving over to Tennessee. I love the Tennessee run game this week. They are actually expected to score over 25 points. That's 5 points over what they've done on their average. So I think Vegas knows something. And I'd be willing to bet that 5 points over their average is a conservative number. So I really think DeMarco Murray, they're favored to win, should be a positive game script. I think they're going to get something done there on the ground. I like that call, certainly. And kind of a sneaky play for Tennessee, who is home to Indy. According to Pro Football Focus, Rashard Matthews has a very nice matchup and could get some sneaky action. I think Mariota, who I like as a streaming candidate as well, certainly like him over. All these names starting to blend together. Mariota, I certainly like him over Kaepernick. All right, last team, Washington. Josh Doxson, of course, he's on IR, has not been able to practice. Deshaun Jackson did not practice Wednesday nor Thursday. Got in a limited one on Friday. He is indeed questionable. Other than that, Jordan Reed, he's out with a concussion. It's not looking good for him. 6 diagnosed concussions, I believe. He says maybe there's a 7th. It's looking like another Jordan. A Jordan Cameron, sorry to say. But that's it for the practice reports, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me and shooting the breeze. And I'm going to get to some news feeds here. I'll be cranking them out all morning. Hit us up on Second Opinions and give me a follow on Twitter It's at PyromaniacMo, PYROMANIACMO. The regular crew is at Pyromaniac, that's PYROMAN, the number 1AC. And last thing, give us a review on any podcast platform that you encounter Pyromaniac on. Give us a review and grab a screen grab of that, copy and paste, send it on over to Mozambique at Pyromaniac.com. You can also find my email via my Twitter, PyromaniacMo. Send me an email and put in the subject line iTunes review or podcast review. If you do, the last show, it's about 6 weeks away. I want to say it's November 25th. It's that Thanksgiving weekend there. 6 weeks away. I think it's right going into week 12, I want to say. But we'll be talking about this a lot. I'm going to be sending it out on Twitter quite a bit. We're going to rattle off a $50 NFL gift card. So we just sent out the 3 Walter Payton posters that you can see right there. There was 85 limited edition. Congratulations to those winners. I talked to them, emailed them. They know it's coming. And this next one we're doing, as I said, $50 gift card to NFL.com. So leave us a review on any platform you encounter us on. Send that review to me, and we're going to enter you to win $50 from NFL.com. All right, guys, this has been the practice reports for week 7. Get your lineup set, and good luck this week, and we will see you next week. Take care.